Another aspect of flow is feeling in control. If you know, so a person who's playing tabla and he gets flow. Anybody who plays musical instruments, sometime or the other, he would have felt it. Musical instruments or singing. So sometimes you know you are in flow, and you must know how to play that instrument pretty well. There must be a sense of control. If you don't know what you are doing, you'll never get flow. It'll just be straining. It'll be tension and strain. Loss of self-awareness. We spoke about this. We'll just leave this one out for the time being. Another aspect is transformation of time. Again, we have experienced this. There is a time distortion. When you are in flow, hours seem to pass by very quickly. You know, when you look up and you see the clock and you find that already 2 or 3 hours have gone, you don't feel that you've been sitting there for 2 or 3 hours. That is the nature of flow. With deep concentration, time seems to fly. If you don't have deep concentration, then time seems to drag. I have often, I was talking to some students in a college somewhere else, and I was speaking about the way I saw the boys and girls in the IIT Kanpur library studying. And I said, see, they on Sundays they come, and I saw some of them studying from the morning till afternoon till night. Sometimes they do all night, they're studying, not just 1 or 2. Many of them, they do that. Especially I heard before examinations, a lot of you are up and doing. Obviously, you have to. Now, one of the boys who was sitting there, he said, oh, how boring. I said, no, it's not boring. In fact, if you like the subject and if you're immersed in it and if you cut away everything else in life, then it's not boring actually. Because when you get the flow is very enjoyable. It's deeply satisfying. Of course, because you have an exam and you have to go grades and all, it's tension. But otherwise, it's deeply satisfying. You know what is boring? What is difficult? If you give only a part of that 126 bits, maybe 50 bits and 60 bits, and the rest of it is still free, then you can think about the good time you could be having watching TV or playing video games, and you're still doing physics, and then you feel how boring and irritating this is. Or, you're sitting and the same kid who sits and watches a cricket match for hours together, he does not complain about how hot it is, how mosquitoes are biting him, does not complain. But the moment you put that kid in front of his homework, he'll say, "Kaise padhe? Garmi hai, machhar hai. How can I study?" What happens is, because out of that 126 bits, almost all of it is absorbed on the cricket match, he does not feel the discomfort of heat or mosquitoes or whatever. But when he's doing something he does not like it, most of his cognitive capacity is free. And it will go to whatever pulls his cognitive capacity. Like it may be a mosquito, whatever. I remember when we meditate in Belur Mutt, these mosquitoes have a free reign, and especially when you're meditating, you can't do anything about the mosquito. Even one mosquito can spoil your meditation. And sometimes I've seen other monks, and what they do early in the morning, so they'll have this chadar, you open it and put a sort of cloth here, like a veil, so that the mosquito can't enter. And if one mosquito enters that, then you are in deep trouble. It'll be like somebody is fighting in that, you will see. And I was reading of Swami Vivekananda, Girish Ghosh, the famous dramatist. He narrates how he saw Swami Vivekananda sitting in meditation, and his face is black, covered with mosquitoes. He does not feel it. He's gone deep within so much that nothing is left over. Of course, you'll feel it when he comes out. Maybe face will be swollen with mosquito bites. But at that moment, does not feel it. So this is exactly what happens to us in a lesser degree maybe when you are studying or working on something that absorbs most of your cognitive capacity. If you are studying without that flow, without that concentration, it's much more strenuous. Then every few minutes you will feel like going and having a coffee break or going and taking a walk, whatever. Because there is that excess cognitive surplus left over which will remind you, you are suffering, you are doing something boring, please get up. When that is not free, you have a very good time actually. You have forgotten. Time moves faster. Time moves slower, of course. Both are interesting. One surgeon was telling me how hours, 6-7 hours they have to do this neurosurgery. 6-7 hours. I said, how is it possible? Such concentration for such a long time. He says, I don't feel I'm doing it for 5 or 6 hours. After the operation is over, I see it's 5 or 6 hours. So time has moved very fast. Just the opposite, I heard from a fighter pilot. I was sitting in the airport, and this gentleman is retired Air Force pilot. He's not retired, but he's in the Air Force now. At one time, he was a fighter pilot, and he was telling me how he ejected from a plane which was crashing. And he spoke to the air traffic control, gave a mayday call, and he's saying that I'm ejecting at such and such position. And he said, I was feeling irritated at that moment. Why is the traffic control, the military air traffic control, why are they taking so much time to respond to me? I'm in an emergency here, seconds count. Later on, when the court of inquiry, they were board of inquiry after the crash, there he saw, they were laughing at him. They said that we responded within a second or 2 seconds, but for you time seems to be dilated. Because at a point of death, you could die at that moment. Every fraction of a second seems to be living, and it's stretched out and dilated. So when you are in flow, both effects are possible, but the common thing is a distortion of time takes place.